Hello, everybody! We are back with some more lore from the more obscure sides of Monster Hunter. I want to say, firstly, get this here at the start, huge thank you to CR-Volcanic for giving me the okay. Oh, hello! Hi. For some reason, that completely frazzled my brain. Anyways, we are checking out today the obscure monsters of Monster Hunter Online. Again, as I was about to say half a second ago, huge thank you to CR-Volcanic for giving me the go-ahead to do this. And I am pretty curious about this. I've talked about this before on the Frontier videos, but I have been a huge fan of the mainline Monster Hunter franchise since quite literally before I could read. And I've always been curious about the shenanigans that go on in what I thought was the only MMO that Monster Hunter had over in Frontier. And Super Rad's video radically changed my opinions on, or videos radically changed my opinions on Frontier. But they also made it clear to me that, oh, there's another one. Because I remember thinking, hang on, why haven't we seen this and that monster that I thought were Frontier monsters, but were actually monsters from online? And so a bit ago, I found this video, asked CR-Volcanic for permission to do this react, and now, here we are. Like with the previous ones off of Frontier. Well, they're still up on the channel if you want to check them out after this. I think the first two were regular videos, and then the rest were live streams. But, like I said, it's going to be fun. And if you would like, and it would be appreciated if you do this, because, don't want people to not think I'm being like this. The link to this video that we're checking out here today is in the description of this stream. So, go share the love. And, probably should stop rambling and just get into this, shouldn't I? Let's check it out.
Did you think I was done? No. See, we're done with Frontier. But Frontier isn't the only Monster Hunter game you've probably never played, filled with monsters you've probably never fought. So that means I still got work to do. And this time, we are moving on to Monster Hunter Online, a Chinese exclusive Monster Hunter MMO made by the company Tencent.
And question about that, isn't Tencent the one that are doing the new Outlanders, or is that a different one? I thought that might be the same. Either way.
In collaboration with Capcom. Online's another game that is officially defunct.
Yeah.
Has fallen into the more obscure side of Monster Hunter's history, even by the standards of these kinds of videos. And unfortunately, I don't think we'll be seeing much of anything regarding this game maybe ever again.
I mean, some of Frontier stuff came back, but
From what I could find, in 2019, Capcom did not renew its agreement with Tencent, disallowing Tencent from using anything belonging to the Monster Hunter IP, which was the majority of what Online had to offer. Not having nearly enough content that could be legally used, Online was shut down, and as far as I'm aware, the monsters unique to Monster Hunter Online are still owned by Tencent.
Well, that kind of throws a spanner in the works of something I was thinking about doing later on, but I mean, I guess we can still throw the "in a perfect world" label on that. Regardless, that does suck. Copyright shenanigans are, I mean, preserving IP is, to some extent, is important, but it can be annoying. Oh, thank you. And this is actually my side channel, Moog Extra. I actually have little over that on the main one, but on the main one, I mostly do art and Blender animations. So if that also interests you, you can check it out. Do a couple odd, vaguely art-related things there too. But yeah. This one I kind of made for me to just explore random topics and have fun. Because, main one's focused on art.
Not Capcom. So unless these guys show up in a non-Monster Hunter game created by Tencent, I don't think they're gonna resurface.
And that sucking is what I was trying to form the thought about, because like I said, I have seen a couple like just pictures of the monsters from online. I thought they were from Frontier, but some of them were pretty interesting looking. Like there was one I actually like did a Photoshop thing with a long time ago. I thought it was Frontier because I thought it also did some magnet shenanigans, but we'll see.
Stranger things have happened, but I don't know. I'm not gonna hold my breath. And honestly, it's pretty unfortunate. Looking at online, it seemed to have a couple of pretty neat ideas and a fair.
Also, this part isn't related to the legal thing, but I love the old Monster Hunter cinematics. There's something I can't quite put it into words. I just love them. They feel so alive and lit, but even more than alive, they feel lived in. And there's a great video that I might actually do a react to, even though I've seen it like 5 times at this point, if I get permission for it. I think it's called something like I'm a working man in a world that doesn't exist, or something like that, that was about Monster Hunter, and how if you're the kind of fan of the series that I am, and the maker of that video was, it almost feels patriotic in a weird way. I don't know. Tangents.
Amount of charm to it. It was the first time Monster Hunter had damage numbers as well as.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Let me pull up your chat, because for the chat on my side. So I'm talking about when I'm Mogar when you hit, okay?
Stuff like layered armor and weapons.
Oh, that's a heck of a pompadour.
Attacks not found in other Monster Hunter games. Online had a ton of wholly original maps and music. There was MMO-inspired additions to the UI, like ability and item hotbars, and hunting parties beyond 4 players for some of the large siege battles. Crazy to think, right? That a Monster Hunter spin-off MMO not made by Capcom wound up introducing a couple of ideas that we got really accustomed to in the 5th generation of the games. And all of this was powered by the CryEngine, making it a game of far higher graphical fidelity than any of the mainline Monster Hunter games being made at the time, which were mostly still launching on the 3DS. It was even a second home for a lot of Frontier's monsters, actually. Both MMOs housing their own versions of some of Monster Hunter's wildest creations. Kind of
interesting.
But online will probably only slip further and further into obscurity as time goes on. Even after being around for 6 years, I get the impression that it had a bit more to give, and from what I've seen, the general opinion of those who played it is somewhat positive. It seemed to have its own quirks and issues, some glitches and some animation jank, and a bit too much of a reliance on a pay-to-play cash shop, but the
I hate pay-to-play and even more pay-to-win shenanigans. That's what I was worried about when I heard it was Tencent, because I remember hearing something about Tencent being infamous for that, which it sucks, but I don't know. I don't know about how the copyright works out, but I'm really curious about the monsters. I keep saying that, and I keep pausing before we get to there.
Well received. Some of the monsters seem to be pretty well liked. Now, does that make this video pointless?
No, it doesn't. Essentially lost me to history at this point, sadly. But also, it brings more eyes to the monsters from Frontier, and if maybe I help along with this in whatever small way, probably not. But if more eyes are on the monsters from, not Frontier, from online, though Frontier as well, maybe Capcom buys the rights to them if they don't already own them. Maybe we see them in a future game. Or part of, say, Wild's expansion. I don't know.
Nah, talking about Monster Hunter Monsters is still...
Battlefront? Kind of. So with Battlefront, I played like a Star Wars PSP Battlefront game a long time ago that I played a lot. And then I played like 2 minutes of the, I almost want to say new, but it's probably not new anymore, the PS4 Star Wars Battlefront 2 thing, but I hated it. It felt like everything wrong with a lot of AAA modern gaming issues that I have bled into it, and I just didn't like it. But the PSP Star Wars one, I loved. And I haven't played any of the non-Star Wars Battlefronts.
A ton of fun delving into and learning about these obscure creatures on Monster Hunter's fringes.
Yeah, so I have literally the only multiplayer game pretty much that I've actually done, or only game that I've actually engaged with the multiplayer on pretty much is Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and that's like really recently. Yeah. I haven't done pretty much any online stuff ever until very, very recently. I'm slowly tiptoeing into it. I've actually been very like contemplating maybe doing RuneScape or the old Star Wars MMO on this channel, but hasn't won the votes yet. Actually, did I ever put that into the votes? I don't know. I'd have to go back and check. Really? I might have to go back and take a look at it then. I'm pretty sure I still got the disc for it. But, I don't know. It felt more... I don't remember it too much at this point, if I'm being honest. Or... I might have to go take another look at Battlefront 2, the Star Wars Battlefront 2 then, if you're saying it's better.
Has been an amazing undertaking, and preserving the memory of these creatures is a job worth doing. Also,
yes, it is.
I love watching these videos, and I love making them. I will still be rating each of these monsters from 1 to 10 by how much I'd like to see them reappear in mainline Monster Hunter, even if I don't believe that that's ever going to happen.
Oh, that's fun. You know, I think I'll join in on that too. Whenever we get to him rating on if he wants them back or not, I'll throw in my vote too, rather than just hemming and hawing about it like I did on the Frontier ones. Also, the art design for at least the cinematics I'm seeing for this game are great. So,
some good ones today. Online's got that good old-fashioned Monster Hunter blend of absurd, badass, and grounded, all packed in a pretty small ensemble of original monsters, and yet I'd say they cover a lot of the major bases that you come to expect with the creature design in this game.
Really?
We actually have way more monster variations to cover, which, as always...
Yeah, I mean, I heard a lot of good things about the various Star Wars Battlefront, like... It might be a lot better than I remember it, both like you said because of updating, but also I might have just not been in like a great mood when I was playing it, or doing it entirely wrong and just not understanding it. I think I was deep into my Monster Hunter World obsession because I think World was new when Battlefront 2 came out. I don't know.
Will be covered in the back chunk of this video. So, without further ado, we have some monsters to document and discuss. Let's get going.
Let's do.
Caesar Bear.
Is bear. Alright, first impressions, this is Ozeros but beaver.
Right off the bat, a beaver's a pretty neat idea for a monster hunter.
Oh, World is great. I have a few issues, like, I have a little issues with modern Monster Hunter, but it's mostly old man Grouch at Cloud issue. Hold up. That's the Shin Guran Greatsword. Online has Shin Guran in it. Heck yeah. Anyway. Yeah, World's great. It's there's a few parts of it that I wish it and every other monster game after it actually that I wish were a little more like old gen Monster Hunter, but World's fantastic. There's not been a single Monster Hunter game I've played that I've hated, and World is honestly I'd probably rank World above. Yeah, definitely rank World above Rise. Probably it's really hard to put it above Freedom, but probably Freedom Unite. But I'd rank it in my personal taste probably around the same as Freedom Unite. Obviously, World's way more advanced, but personal preference.
Sure. Though, if I may be a bit reductive, Caesar Burr is kinda just a big beaver. I say kind of.
Yeah.
Caesar Burr is a bit more built for combat and aggression than the typically more mild-mannered semi-aquatic rodents we see in real life.
Yeah.
Caesar Burr is a fanged beast the size of a car with...
Yeah. Also, him saying car made me think of it. If you've never like actually looked at how big the monsters in Monster Hunter are, even the quote-unquote smaller ones, it's a lot. That's actually why I kind of really like Monster Hunter Now, the mobile game, because it lets you do an AR mode when you encounter a monster that lets you project it into reality, and it shows you just how big these things actually are, and it puts it into a scale that you can understand a lot better, because the third person over the shoulder hides the actual scale of these creatures a lot.
Massive tree-chopping teeth, long razor-sharp claws, a flat, heavy tail, and a fair amount of heft to him. All effective weapons it uses in gathering wood, food, and defending his territory. Like beavers, Caesar Burr constructs dams within lakes and rivers using downed trees, and he's typically found within dense forests that have bodies of water nearby. Like beavers, Caesar Burr is semi-aquatic, able to be seen fleeing certain areas via leaping into water when it's accessible. As far as I'm aware, there's no visual for a Caesar Burr dam or lodge in Monster Hunter Online, which...
I mean, that's a little sad, but...
And that's kind of unfortunate. I'd love to see one. Would Caesar Burr dam up larger rivers with the larger trees it can knock down and carry?
Oh, imagine the potential for that in a modern gen Monster Hunter game like World, or more, even more in Wilds. Like, imagine putting him in the Scarlet Forest. Sure, he's probably weaker than Bear Monster, Wild's Bear Monster. Why am I blanking on the name? Dashiguma. He's probably weaker than Dashiguma just looking at him, but... Oh, thank you! Oh, thank you. That means a lot, actually. I'm glad you've been enjoying. And if don't say it enough, but feel free to leave suggestions for things to do on the art channel, by the way. But I'm glad you've been enjoying those. It means a lot. And I do, genuinely, it does mean a lot. Anyway, this guy, as I was saying, ecological interactions and stuff. Imagine putting him in the Scarlet Forest of Monster Hunter Wilds. Like I said, he's probably weaker than Dashiguma, but he could actually make dams in the flooded areas, and during the inclemency, it would create flooded air. Oh, I'm getting ideas for this. Oh yeah, the art showcase. Yeah, I do genuinely love doing those. For those of you watching this stream who haven't heard of those, on the main channel Moog Art, I will do at least try to constantly do. I did skip a few months, but I try to do monthly art showcases where I give you guys a prompt and have you make basically whatever kind of art you want following that prompt, and then I show them off, give thoughts and feedback where I can, and try to keep it fun. This month's prompt is video game, so if you want to make something either art based off of either a video game, like say Monster Hunter Wilds or Online or one of the other Monster Hunters, or something that looks like it could be from a video game, you got to make that by the end of the month and send it to me either through the Discord or through my Blue Sky or Tumblr, which you can find links to those in, I believe, this channel's description, but also the main channel's description. Backtracking my thoughts for a moment. This guy in Scarlet Forest. Imagine the interaction potentials there. And you know what? Just for that alone, I'm probably going to give him a spot in something I'm planning to do on this channel. I don't know if it's going to be a stream. It'd be fun to do it as a stream so I could talk to you guys and get your thoughts on it, but it might just be a long form video of... I said this at the end of the Frontier series. A Z rank continuation of my Elder Tide idea, the Master Rank expansion ideal for Wilds I had. Basically, I had the idea for a theoretical Z rank version extension of that, but I wanted to watch this video on Online's monsters to see if I felt like any of them should also get a spotlight to come back. I mean, legal issues notwithstanding, this is, in a perfect world, glorified fanfic, if I'm being honest, at the moment. But it's something I've been thinking about.
How big do those dams get? What kind of animals is he trying to protect himself from with said dam?
Well, I mean, what kind of animals depends on what other large monsters are in the area, but, I mean, first thing that immediately jumps to mind is Devajo making a snack of him.
There's a couple of cool questions you could ask due to the massive size increase between a typical beaver and a Caesarbur. Combat.
Yes, but no. At least to me, because the ecosystem in Monster Hunter is such a like fleshed out part of of this world that I don't have to question why. I think it's a Chocobo. Sounds right-ish. Makes dams and does beaver things despite being the size of a car. This is a world where there are far bigger, far more dangerous monsters, and he despite being, you know, car-sized beaver bear, he's still at the bottom, near the bottom of the ecosystem, at least relatively. So, I'd imagine, at least. Not
I'd say
super surprising.
is most comparable to a Congalala, while still having a solid amount of unique animations to call his own. It doesn't...
Congalala, for lack of a better way of putting it, Congalala tier in terms of capability sounds right for him.
A lot of the same things, but in somewhat different ways. Caesarbur is mainly looking to crush you to death. He puts his full weight into a lot of his attacks. He's got barrel rolls, body slams, and forward-facing dives. My absolute favorite attack of his is when he does a handstand following up with a forward roll. He's also...
The handstand attack is pretty fun.
Got Congalala's Claw Swipe. He's got a bit of damage from a range, though he lacks any elemental projectiles. His large flat tail and forelimbs are each strong enough to rip up the earth and launch large clumps of mud. And I noticed that he often likes to fire off mud in both of these attacks back to back. And if he needs to, he can pull up entire tree trunks out of the ground to swing around as a weapon, though he can pretty easily knock himself off balance due to the sheer force of the log swinging around.
Wonder if Bambaro drew a little bit. I mean, probably not, but makes me think of Bambaro's charge where he picks up the tree log. Trunk.
Move pool,
tree
but
log, you know
I
what I mean?
think that can be forgiven for entry-level monsters. And for what it's worth, Caesar...
I mean, yeah, it's an entry-level, like, above the Dromes and Praise level monster. It's not like Pookie or Congalala, like you said. Not particularly strong, but you don't need, like, every monster doesn't have to be the amazing powerhouse, especially in a series like Monster Hunter, where it's about the world, you know, the ecosystem, the life of the place, more than just next boss fight. At least, you know, to me.
Attacks and animations that he does call his own. In terms of his design, I really like him. He's super simple, grounded, and easy to figure out. He's clearly...
I mean, yeah, like, again, pretty much my thoughts exactly so far.
A beaver reimagined to fit the monkey skeleton for the fanged beasts.
Well, no, I don't know if this is, like, mechanically true, but I feel like there's two distinct fanged beast skeletons. Like, there's the monkey skeleton, the Congalala, Blangonga, Rajang, so on skeleton, but there's also the bear skeleton for fanged beasts. Azeros, Volvidon, there's one other, but it's not popping into my brain. Oh, Lagambi. The more bear-like ones. And he's the more bear-like one. But that could also just be them scaling the bones differently and shifting them around a touch to give that impression. I don't know I don't know the back end of how anything is made in Monster Hunter, but maybe one day I will.
thus making
Need
him
to
a
learn.
lot leaner and more muscular and having much longer limbs in relative proportion to his body than a actual beaver would have. I
Yeah.
think it's pretty cool to see this skeleton reinterpreted for new types of mammals. And a beaver is a pretty creative choice that's executed kind of well. He's got a good amount of color in him too, which helps him pop out a little bit more, with none of the colors being too vibrant so they don't clash a ton. I like the
Yes. Because again, it feels like a natural coloration palette that is still dull enough that it could camouflage, especially inside of a dam. It's good creature design.
yellow streaks in the fur, which
And
brighten
Monster
up his
Hunter
main
always
body a
excels
little
with
bit,
that.
and that kind of blue-purple tint on his hands, feet, belly, crest, and tail prevent those chunks of his body from just being like a dull, lifeless gray. And the
Yeah.
little bits of beige on his tail spikes, crest and belly, and claw spikes, those are nice
Less beige, more very pale yellow to me.
touch too. Just kind of lets those bits pop. There's a fair bit to the design here without him feeling busy or
Mhm.
overcomplicated. It's simple and has a bit of its own flair, and I think he looks pretty good. I like this guy. I think his design and some of his unique animations are my favorite things about him. He's not terribly complex in terms of his ecology, design, or combat. I do like the occasion.
Well, he's very easy to understand ecologically. It is just Beaver Ozeros, but at the same time, the ecological impacts that this guy could have, I mean, look at real life beavers. They're a keystone species for a reason. A single beaver dam can shape an entire ecosystem. So again, imagine porting this guy into a more modern Monster Hunter game that could potentially handle something that could shape and redefine an entire map depending on what he did. What he did, what? Somehow tried to combine the words is and does. English failing. Yeesh. Anyway. I mean, again, imagine having this in the Scarlet Forest during the downpour. It has a dam in one of the areas, and one of the areas, like, floods and turns into a swimming map. That would be awesome.
Occasional super grounded, super realistic Monster Hunter monster that could, feasibly be a real animal. I could totally see.
I mean, yeah, feasibly be a real animal with the caveat of square cube. Well, I mean, it could feasibly be a real animal. It wouldn't be not anywhere nearly as agile, but yeah.
Bird being an animal that walked on this planet at some point, minus the handstand rolling and the tree swinging. That's definitely the Monster Hunter influence.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to see the traditional.
Something I've noticed, at least between this one and the Frontier one, us Monster Hunter fans seem to share a brain cell for a lot of different things.
Monkey-oriented body type repurposed for a gigantic rodent. It's a shame Caesar Bird's probably gone for good, because I'd love to see one just kind of passively carrying logs around and knocking down trees, maybe creating a big dam somewhere, especially as these Monster Hunter games are starting to get a little bit more ecologically inclined. The only thing I can really say against him is that he might just be a shred too simple. He looks like a beaver. He does things like a beaver. It has beaver ecology. And, that's kind of it. I'm gonna give.
It looks like he's about to give it to his rating, but again, I contest that the ecologically simple issue he brings up isn't actually the case, because again, think of all of the interactions that this could cause. Not only do you just have all of the interesting like things you could have building dams, doing tree stuff, being tuned up a little. But again, if he actually made the dams in the environment that could flood areas, dry out others while he's on the map, it could set up environmental, like reoccurring environmental traps as long as he's on the map of him building a dam, and then the hunter being able to sling or yoink it down and, tidal wave a monster over or something like that. I think there's a lot more potential to this guy than you're letting on.
Good old Caesar Burn 8 for how much
Caesar Burn, that was it. Okay.
Monster Hunter.
8? You know what? I was going, initially, before you talked about him actually doing all the beaver stuff, I was initially going to put him at like a 5 or 6, because, well, I do like him. It is beaver, but all of the ecological impacts, yeah, I think I agree with you. I think 8 is a good ranking for him. 7 or 8 at least. Maybe a little lower.
Cremine.
Ooh. Gypsros, but pink frilled. Hmm. 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 He's got a throat pouch. What's...
So, Gypsaros
Yeah.
is far, far, far from being the most beloved monster in Monster Hunter's bestiary.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the unfortunate reputation of being the rubber chicken monster, but I do like Gypsaros, especially because of his ecological interactions with Nursilla, which is kind of cruel to say because, Nursilla skins him, but I don't hate Gypsaros nearly as much as some people seem to. And in fact, I kind of like his goofy little run as long as it's not bowling me over.
So, how does his violence-craving explodey cousin from online pan out?
Explodey cousin?
Oddly enough, I like this one too. Cremine is a desert-dwelling psycho of a bird wyvern, sporting a more heavily armored body, a striking red head of hair, weaker wings, and much more powerful legs. He lacks his more famous cousin's rubbery, electricity-resilient hide, blinding head crest, ability to steal items, proclivity towards playing possum, strong wings, and poison-producing organs. However, he compensates for these lacking qualities with a much more physically powerful body, a louder and more ear-piercing cry, and a projectile weapon of his own. That being an explosive mucus he can spit up in great quantities, and in a variety of methods. He does like to keep the elasticy tail, though. The explosive thunder oil, as the mucus is called, is Cremine's most potent and commonly utilized weapon. It is incredibly lethal, highly volatile, and easily manipulatable. Cremine can spit up...
This is going to be an entirely unanswerable question because it's not like we have in-universe chemical analysis, but I gotta wonder if its exploding mucus is of a similar chemical composition to Kurapeka's flammable mucus. Maybe with some of what makes the slime mold that Brachydios has explosive. That's just where my mind goes. But I do like the idea of a more physically tough armored Gravios. Giving him explosions is an odd choice, but I can see it working.
Globs of this mucus in several spread out shots, fire it off while running, follow up spinning physical attacks by arcing the mucus into the air, and cough it up into the sand beneath his and your feet, causing subterranean detonations. He can beat his wings in order to create wind currents that can push the mucus across the sand. Some property of the thunder oil causes it to detonate almost immediately on contact with sand, and it seems he can also detonate it by screeching. So this stuff is enormously unstable and can
very interesting.
Burst with even the slightest stimuli. His bite can even have a bit of an explosive kick to it. Fight-wise, this is where he differentiates from Gypsaros the most. The two share a lot of physical attacks, so Gypsaros's flying hops, elastic tail sweeps and smacks, his bite attacks, and his charges are here. The big changes are the elemental powers being put on display, and the attacks through which they are expelled. And personally, though this, again, does not look to be the most complex duel out there, I think Cremine is a pretty neat take on a Gypsaros relative.
It is an interesting Gypsaros, variation. I don't, from the impressions I've got so far, though, I don't rank it higher than the Beaver monster so far.
And, of course, I think he can be forgiven for not having the deepest move pool as an early game monster. And for an early level monster, his damage output seems pretty decent. Design-wise, I also think Cremine is a considerable step up from Gypsaros.
I'd actually rank him about even with Gypsaros in terms of design. I mean, yeah, I'd probably put him about even with Gypsaros in terms of design.
Still pretty silly looking, but is also considerably more menacing.
A little more. I don't know as to go as far as fully say more menacing, but a lot more menacing. A little more menacing. Again, I'm seeing him more on the same level as Gypsros than being better than
I
him.
find it pretty interesting that his shell seems to have a color and texture incredibly reminiscent of the Blows wyverns. Hard to say,
Yes.
but I wonder if that's perhaps some form of visual defense acquired through years of evolution. That
I mean, yeah, if he lives in a sandy environment, which this seems to be, it makes perfect sense for him to be sandy camouflage like like Diablos or Monoblos.
perhaps Cremine evolved to look a little bit more like Diablos and Monoblos to spook potential threats that don't look too closely at him. That's at least a kind of a neat idea. It looks like earthy battle armor built on top of his fleshy blue hide that you see on the typical Gypsaros. I really like the bright red shock of fur that sticks out nicely from his otherwise desaturated colors, and his brown.
I don't know, the red shock does stand out, but I don't know if it stands out in a good way to me. I'm not sure if I'd prefer it to be a different color or not.
Shape and blood red eyes give him this kind of permanent look of rage on his face.
It does do that, though.
Properly ruthless and violent animal, while still maintaining a lot of the quirkiness that I really like about bird wyverns. Same with the combat. I think this is a design that takes the Gypsaros template and pushes it in a pretty neat direction. I'd say I'm so far a fan of this desert-dwelling barbarian bird. I think
I'm a lot more neutral on him. I mean, he's all right. There are I very much could see him existing in the world of Monster Hunter a lot more than I could a few of the Frontier monsters. But existing, like, he exists is, if I was using like one of those labeled tier things, he exists is probably the bracket I'd put him in.
he looks much more interesting, fundamentally cooler, and considerably less annoying than Gypsaros. It's a shame.
I will concede the less annoying. But at the same time, Gypsaros's flash, while incredibly annoying to deal with, becomes this incredibly satisfying reward when you actually break his head and he can't flash you anymore. That interaction I love, because when you can, and that's why I actually like Gypsaros a bit more than I think most people do. Sure, flashing and poisoning is an annoying combination, but when he flashes, when you break his head and he can't flash you anymore, he'll still try to do it, not fully grasping his injury, and that leaves you an opening. And that means it's super rewarding to do so. And this guy doesn't seem to have that, so.
That of the two, this is the one we probably won't be seeing ever again. I like the idea of monsters having relatives, and I think this is a pretty good one.
I do also like monsters having relatives beyond what their subspecies are. That is fun. And yeah, it is very annoying so far that the two we've seen are ones that I at most say yeah, he's cool. Like he exists. He's fine with, like there's nothing bad about him at all. And again, I think of him probably about the same as I think of Gypsaros, the baseline. And he could be fun to have come back. I mean, imagine him in the Windward Plains using, most recent Monster Hunter game. He'd fit in. And we already have Gypsaros, so they had the skeleton. It wouldn't be too hard to adapt him into it, I'm presuming. But licensing problems.
Give him a 7 for wanting to see him again.
I'll give him a 6. Because he is interesting, but he doesn't really... And he is interesting. I do kind of like him, but there's nothing about him that really makes me go, ooh, yeah, I want him back. He's fun, and it's cool to have more monsters, but he doesn't super grab me. I mean, there's not a single Monster Hunter monster that isn't fun with like there's like only a very few ones from Frontier that there's actually only one Frontier monster that I actually hated, like flat out, which was a huge surprise to me, actually. Every other one, even the ones that felt like, okay, this is some Frontier shenanigans, I was at most a little annoyed by, or this is cool, but it doesn't feel Monster Hunter. But, like I said, there's only one there that I actually hated, and there's not a single mainline monster that I truly hate. Like, there's some that It looks my tracking might be wigging out. We'll see if it comes back to normal. There's only a few mainline monsters that I'm annoyed with to hunt, but I don't hate them because, you know, they're a part of the world and they fit it and they're cool. And this does fit the world, and it feels like an interesting creature that is, again, part of the world. It meshes in. It doesn't particularly stand out while meshing in. So yeah, I'm gonna stand by my 6 ranking on it. I'll save 5, a straight 5 for the ones I am completely no interest or scorn for, and then below 5 will be the ones I start to like less. I think that's how I'll count this. Feel like I'm gonna need to fix my tracking with how much I'm shifting around. Ooh! Yeah, he's one of the ones I thought was from Frontier. Yeah, I definitely need to fix my tracking. Hold on. Need to reset that. I've been scooting around too much. Doop, 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 boop. Okay, back into it. Yeah, he's one of the ones I thought was from Frontier. I mean, Skull Spider Crab. It's cool.
Gotta say, this is probably my favorite looking of the Carapacians. Belidae is indeed of the same monster category as the crustacean-like Hermitar and Cenotar, but has a design much more akin to that of a spider. And the spider similarities don't just stop at the design, as Belidae is a creature capable of producing a movement-impeding silk. Much like CR reinterpreted the typical monkey monster skeleton with a rodent, Belidae injects some arachnid DNA into this crab-dominated category. Though to be fair, Belidae was likely in development before the spider-inspired Temnoceran classification was introduced in Monster Hunter 4.
And be that as it may, it is still a very fun, like, example of convergent evolution, which is, a thing in real life too. Sometimes species will evolve to fill very similar niches despite having very little genetic link. And crabs are kind of aquatic spiders in a way anyway, and especially in Monster Hunter, they both share an even more similar number of limbs. I think more spider monsters are always good, even if they're not Temnoceran, so
It has an immediately captivating design, most notably for his bizarrely developed abdomen, which has evolved to look like the skull of a much larger monster.
And I can see 2 reasons for this. So firstly, we already know that Carapacians have a penchant for using the skulls of other monsters as their back armor when they're more hermit crab-like. I mean, both Daimyo Hemitar and Shogun Cenotar do this. And it could partly just be a defensive thing, but it could, and honestly, fairly likely is, a defensive mimicry thing of, I am big, scary, I am far larger, scarier monster, don't mess with me. This guy doesn't have that because his back end has evolved essentially spider spinnerets, and silk production and all that. So, it's not, but it likely wanted to, I'd say wanted, evolution doesn't want, but I mean, it likely ended up like this to fill that similar need of big, scarier, this is totally a far larger monster on my back, I'm pretending to be something worse than I am, while still allowing it, the web production. It makes sense. It's a little weird that it starts glowing, but then again, a lot of monsters from Monster Hunter have various parts that will do that when they're enraged. It fits with the in-universe biology to an extent. Nothing super crazy. I like the design. I like this one more than Sandy Gypsyros that explodes already. So
adaptation most certainly developed with the purpose of striking fear into predators and competitors. Belidae,
I mean, more succinct way of saying what I was too.
himself is a rather successful hunter. He dominates caves and caverns within heavily forested areas, preferring to stick to the enclosed spaces where he has more mobility. He can pretty easily pick off any and all herbivores who wander into his den and can go blow for blow with several monsters of his size. Though he is by no means an apex predator at the top of the forest food chain, he has his own niche carved out where he's a successful and ominous hunter, and he likes to stay where he's the most comfortable. I will say, I think the fight leaves a little to be desired. Caesar and Kraemine also didn't have the deepest movesets, but I think they had a bit more personality to them. Baelid,
yeah, especially with what I'm seeing on the backgrounds he's talking about him. The fight does seem pretty standard Carapacian fight, but it's webs instead of water spurts. But again, licensing issues probably not happening. But if they were brought into modern Monster Hunter, I mean, look at what Nursilla does in the Ice Shard. Imagine if they gave that to this and put it in a, say, jungle beach map like the one I thought of for the Elder Tide expansion idea. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I could very much, if we, again, licensing notwithstanding, I could very much see him coming back and being a lot better for it.
he uses his large claws for a lot of his attacks, and most of his claw attacks are just right on in front of him. He has a forward-facing claw slam and a forward-facing claw lunge. He does have a pretty cool punch walk type of attack where he slams one claw after the other into the ground, right in front of him. He doesn't even have some...
Oh, you break open him into his meaty insides. Oh, I love it when monsters have that. You break open a chunk and you see their meaty inner bits. That's why I used to really love Gravios breaking his stomach.
The maneuverability and odd attack angles that make Hermitar and Cenatar fights so engaging. If you keep at a direct line of sight, you're gonna do pretty well for yourself against him. I'm kind of shocked he doesn't
when it changes,
really incorporate his massive
it changes color
abdomen
depending on his
into
enrage
combat,
state. That's cool
at
too.
all. Sure, it can do a little.
Actually, going back to what I was saying about the eyes turning red and now seeing the broken backside, that enreddens when he's in rage and goes back to the more translucent blue when he's not. Perfect biological reason for why the eyes go red. They're a far thinner section of the shell that hides the areas that doesn't defend the internal soft bits nearly as much, but pulses red when it's enraged because of the excess blood flow. The ecology is ecologing far harder here than it was in Frontier already.
A little bit of damage if he backs into you with it, but
I'm not questioning any of the biology here.
Into his attacks, at least from what I've seen. The coolest stuff he can do is with his webs. The best attack he has by far is where he can swing from the cavern's ceiling with his silk and come lunging towards you, though,
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. Just give him, mix in some Nursilla moves, but mix in a few more Hermitar moves, and he'd be great.
As cool as that is, this too is a forward-facing claw attack. It's just a lot fancier. The biggest thing that he has is the movement-inhibiting properties of his silk attacks. You get hit by these little web traps that he lays on the ground, then your movement speed is cut in half, making it much easier for Baelid to hit you.
Okay, that's a little goofy.
Wholly unique to this game, and movement manipulation in general is not super duper common in Monster Hunter, so I think this is a really neat debuff. As I said,
it is a neat debuff, but I could just as easily see it getting replaced with either just the more modern interpretation of you're stuck to the ground, or it'd be a really fun way to bring back the snowman variants of status effects and give you a webbed up status effect.
Before, love the design.
Yes.
I think that's absolutely the high point of Baelid.
Oh, yeah.
He's nice and freaky looking. Your eyes are immediately drawn to that big false monster skull jutting out of his back. I really like the concept of animals having an aspect of their biology built to make them look like a bigger, scarier animal than they actually are.
Mimicry.
I think it's just a really interesting defense mechanism, and Baelid has far and away the zaniest interpretation of this biological adaptation.
It's zany, but it's not zany within the context of Monster Hunter, Because, if a real-world animal went this far with mimicry, yes, it'd be absurd. But this feels... it feels within the bounds of what I could very easily see happening in Monster Hunter. It feels right.
That I've ever seen. His abdomen sits nice and high and towers over the rest of his body,
Mm.
letting the visage of a monster skull loom over Beladay and potentially any other competitor encroaching on the spider crab's territory. When enraged, the abdomen will swell with blood.
How did I not catch the spider crab pun? Anyway.
Causing the false eyes to glow red. The fact that
literally what I was saying a second ago, yeah. Again, Monster Hunter fans share a brain cell. It just choose to express the thoughts it has at different intervals.
Creature's abdomen would grow so precisely that a skull-like formation manifested with fake horns and fake fangs and fake
You say that that's absurd.
eyes. That's a little bit out there, but
you say that that's out there, but there very much exists a snake that has evolved a tail. There is a species, I can't remember what the name of it is. I think it's something is literal as spider-tailed snake or something nearly to that extent. You can Google this. There is a real-life snake that has a tail tip specifically evolved to look exactly like a spider when it's curled up and when the snake curls the tip of its tail and moves it along its body, it looks exactly like a brown spider scurrying around. And the snake uses that to lure in birds that go after the easy-picking spider and instead become the easy pickings when the snake does what snakes do and gets the bird. That sounds like a fantasy novel thing. I mean, a snake with a tail that looks exactly like a spider so it can hunt birds. Sounds crazy. It exists. And within the context of Monster Hunter's, fantasy biology, this isn't even that crazy to me.
yeah, sure. I like it. It's really fun. It's a real-world concept taking to a Monster Hunter extreme. It's
Yes.
pretty great. Rest of him's pretty great looking, too. He's got this neat, creepy spider face with his beady little green...
This is a sick artwork of him. Like, that is a sick art of him.
eyes and giant buck teeth fangs. I'm a big fan of the attack and defense design of his claws. From straight on, they look nice and big and broad, very shield-like. And from the bottom, you can get a look at these dagger-like blades coming out of them. And to wrap things up here, the color scheme is pretty great too. He's got a lot of bone coloration and texture for his face, his claws, and the front parts of his abdomen, which kind of sells the concept of him carrying around a monster skull on his back. And as you go towards the back of the body, that color gives way to this mix of dark blues and reds and greens and grays, which look quite nice with the orange highlights on the abdomen's false horns. Beladay.
Also, I just thought of this as a Wild Tamer main. Put his back half on a stick. Give me the back half, his abdomen that has the skull mimicry, the top part of the skull mimicry. Put that on a stick and let me smack a monster in the face with it.
Is a concept that I love attached to a monster that I like, and I never really wanted to love him fully. There's a subspecies that I haven't seen gameplay for yet as of writing this chunk of the script who may be able to impress me, but the core Beladay has a fight that is just a tad too basic. It's very straightforward, very predictable looking, and doesn't capitalize on the massive abdomen, shield-like aspect of the claws, the mandibles, or skittery mobility that the crab skeleton allows for. I definitely still do appreciate the unique debuff, though. I do really like the design, but I think I'd really want to see more from him. As it stands, I think I'd give Beladay a 7 for how...
I'm... Beladay as he is, 7, yes. Beladay as his potential to be, if he was ever brought back, again, impossibility of doing so, but that's how I look at this. If he was ever brought back, I'd say an 8. Because the sheer potential there, especially with, the advancement in spider technology. Weird sentence out of context with Nursilla. He could be an amazing monster if he was ever brought back. I know, licensing, it's not going to happen, yarhar, but that's the lens I look at these through.
Much I'd like to see him in mainline Monster Hunter.
And even then, yeah, he's fairly standard with Carapace and can do, but at the same time, I mean, Damio Hermitar is just crab and is super basic with being just crab, but I still love him because he is crab. And this is crab, but also spider, which, you know, 2 cool animals instead of 1. So yeah, I think I'm gonna put him in an 8. Plus, while his attacks aren't anything, you know, super to write home about, his general movement and the mannerisms around his attacks, like how his abdomen just did that waggle will as he wound back, they're not bad at all.
Like Tenna.
Ooh. Okay, what? 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 What in the sauced up Neuropteran, but it's an in name. The cricket, like the small monster. This is who scaled up the little black cricket beetle, rhinoceros beetle monster, and then gave it Thunderbug, and then crossed it with a Thunderbug, because this is interesting.
Even over at Tencent, the lightning monsters are treated really good.
Yeah.
Making this video, like Tenna was probably my favorite monster in Online's core roster of unique creations.
Really?
After seeing how this bad boy fights and understanding what he can do, yeah, that top spot's gonna be even harder to take. Like Tenna.
Like Tenna. Name is a little on the nose. Maybe that's just the English translation being on the nose. But it's a very solid concept. It's a very, very solid... Because again, this is not Helmitar. Because I keep wanting to say Helmitar, but that's the crab. It's an 8... It's like in... The Neuropteran... You know the one. If you're a Monster Hunter fan, you know what I'm talking about. It's in... Like... more recently in World. It's in Rotten Vale and a couple other spots. But it's... one of the 2 ant Neuropterans, but it's big and lightning, and that is fun. And we need, so I'm of the firm opinion that we need more bug monsters. This is a bug monster. I'm in. I need to shut up and just let him finish talking about it.
Is a gorgeous looking blue and golden beetle who can generate electricity via the rapid movements of its wings.
Oh, and that's the ecology of its electrical That's fun. It's static electric. I like that.
Electricity courses through its body with a positive charge congregating towards his horn and a negative charge forming towards his abdomen. And the relationships these charges have with themselves in like Tenna's moveset is where this monster really shines. Quite literally, at full power, a Lytena's light can be seen for over 70 kilometers. That amount of electrical strength should tell you just how dangerous these bugs can be. Most of Lytena's lightning attacks...
I do wonder where he's getting that stat from, but at the same time, I don't question it too much because the monsters in Monster Hunter are strong. You don't think about it too much because you, the hunter, are also really strong, but Monster Hunter is a lot crazier than a lot of people give it credit for. And I mean, that feels a little far away, but again, natural lightning can be seen from real far away too, so anyway.
Are positively charged, and when they hit you, your lightning resistance decreases and your stamina usage increases.
Now let me back up.
Most of Lytena's lightning attacks are positively charged, and when they hit you, your lightning resistance decreases and your stamina usage increases. When you are inflicted with a positive charge, these negatively charged electrospheres that Lytena produces will be pulled towards you, and should you be inflicted with both charges, you will be paralyzed.
That is a fantastic expansion of how Thunderblight usually works. Thunder and electric blight and electrical attacks usually were that. That is very interesting. I
It
like
worked the other
that.
way, with you being negatively charged, then positively charged, then paralyzed. But from what I've seen, it's much
I mean, clipping into the floor, but we forgive the jank.
easier and more common for you to be positively charged initially and then struck with a negative charge attack. A good rule of thumb is that Lytena's positively charged attacks are a bit brighter blue and his negative attacks are a deeper, darker purple in coloration. And unlike a lot of our previous entries, Lytena's packing a pretty sizable arsenal of attacks. Sometimes he fires off his electricity in short-range bursts with large areas of effect. At other times, he shoots off fast-moving, long-distance pinpoint beams of electricity at you. And other times, he can coat his horn with lightning, sweeping it at you, or charging straight into you with it with breakneck speed. There is no range at which Lytena doesn't have an option. He can keep you out and punish you for getting in. He can conjure a full body-encompassing shockwave of electrical energy. And when he deploys his negative charge orbs, he fires off several at a time, making it much harder for you to effectively dodge them.
Okay, now it depends on what his, like, where he is in the hierarchy of monster threat level. Because he is bug monster, I am inherently conditioned to assume weaker, but that's just because of what the standard bug monsters are. He feels a lot stronger, though, which is weird to me, but it's weird to me in a way that shouldn't be, if I'm being honest. It still feels like a little bit of a lot, but then again, it's not like any crazier than, say, Astalos. So if he's supposed to be on the level of Astalos, which he probably is, fair enough.
Definitely the biggest threat we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Fast, strong, persistent, accurate, and his bag of tricks is pretty deep. The fight looks like a really good challenge, and for once, it's the monster who has a resource management puzzle it must utilize to try and make you weaker and create weak points in your defenses. More often than not, it's the hunter trying to exploit a monster's special weaknesses and mechanics to try and gain an advantage, but here, the role is reversed. This plays pretty well with some of Monster Hunter Online's unique AI aspects. There'll be a countdown timer for how long you will keep a debuff on you, and having that knowledge helps inform you how long you have to be careful about the different charges, giving you...
It's interesting that they had this in online, because I really liked, even though I don't use it nearly as much as I should, I really like that they added this in Wilds, so...
you a timeline where you should be defensive and evasive so as not to grant Lytena the paralysis it wants to land on you. If there's any issue with this battle, it's that Lytena spends a bit of time meandering about in the air where the only accessible parts of his body for most melee weapons to be attacked are going to be his two little scrawny legs.
Yeah, but that is a problem with all monsters that can fly to some extent. I mean, look at Olgin Rathalos, but it's probably manageable.
That and there's a bit of clipping into the floor.
Yeah, a bit. But I tend to be more forgiving of jank than not.
In terms of the design, Lytena looks pretty excellent. His shape is simple, that being of a massive horned beetle with a sleek body shape and thick armored legs. His shell is colored a beautiful blue that's darker closer to the body and brighter the further it is out from the shell. Extremities like the tips of his horns are a dazzling electric blue. This blue on his shell is blended with a nice dark gold color on the underside of his legs and torso. The colors complement each other incredibly. His wings are a spectacle all their own, glowing a brilliant blue and turning a deep violet towards the ends. Now this is some really good stuff. Lytena...
I have one kind of criticism with his design. I think he would look a little bit better if instead of the two horns on the sides, you gave him one. I know there are some versions of that type of similar faced beetles that do have the two. Some versions have the one. But I think it'd look better if it was just the one horn on the back of the head and then the one on the front of the head. But that's personal design taste. He is very cool.
Has some unique interactions with the lightning element, a beautiful design, and a pretty great looking grab bag of attacks that look tough to deal with in a really good way. I'm pretty damn impressed. I think Lytena is going to get a nice strong 10 out of 10 for how much I'd like to see him. I like pretty much everything about him quite a bit.
I don't know. I mean, he is fantastic, but I don't know if I'm sold enough on him to give him a full 10 out of 10. I'm going to give Light 10 a 9, just in case there's something that blows me away even harder. But he is still very cool. Also, I haven't said this yet because I feel like it's almost a given, but the music is fantastic. But I say it's almost a given because there is pretty much no Monster Hunter track that's bad. Even the ones I think aren't, the best Monster Hunter tracks are still good. And this has the feel of like old school. This feels like music from Try, and I really like that because if you can't tell from the channel name, I am a 3rd gen hunter. I come from Moga Village. I still listen to the Try soundtrack.
Koyaku.
Ooh! Oh, this was one I definitely thought was Frontier, because, yeah, this guy, he has a fantastic design. I really like him.
Most commonly in YouTube videos and on the Monster Hunter Wiki, the Disaster Wyvern. This guy never properly got a Romanized name, whereas the other online monsters did, so his official title is what became his English name, that being Disaster Wyvern. However, his untranslated name is indeed Koyaku, and that is what we will be calling him for the bulk of this video. So with that out of the way, wow, this is a weird looking monster.
I mean, weird looking, but this is Brachydios if Brachydios spec'd into punching or like bladed shield charges, then explosions. And it is a very good design. Oh, look, you got the exhaust vent nostrils up here, almost like shark gills. And then like his little claws on the inside of the arm. And oh, that is such a good design. He's got like the almost shark-like head, except it becomes more snake-like. Oh, I really, really like this design. And he's got I cannot remember where these shields are from or what, but there is a type of shield that is also bladed towards the front and designed like this that's meant to punch and stab into people as well as just deflecting. It's like a dueling shield or something like that. And that's what those remind me of. And he's got this rubbery hide that's not quite Gypsyros rubbery, but almost like shark skin, but like a rubberier, deeper sea shark skin, so like a Greenland shark maybe. Except this is a fantastic monster design. I like this one so much.
Monster Hunter Online's original Brute Wyvern has officially ousted Frontier's Gasura Bazura as the single oddest thing I have ever seen on this frame.
No, what? What do you mean odd?
And I'm having a lot of trouble telling if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
This is a very, very much a good thing. Are you kidding me? Okay, this is the point where our opinions start to diverge, I guess, because I love this design.
You like my weirdo monsters, but this chicken leg walking, thunder thigh having, fishtail swinging, prehistoric trigonometry lesson is quite the distinct looking son of a bitch.
I was not expecting a roast sesh, but I mean, I can see why you don't like him, but the reasons why, this is such a good design. What are you talking about?
Koyaku is relentless and brutal. His entire game plan built around speed and aggression. He might be,
and I am here for it because he turns his body into a battering ram missile, but in a way that feels right. What more do you want?
The fastest, most agile Brute Wyvern out there, and he's got quite a few tools at his disposal. First off, his horn and arm blade shell things are very large and ridiculously sharp. Each one
Yeah.
can be a lethal weapon that can puncture a hole nice and clean through armor and the person inside said armor.
Yeah.
Second of all, the heat Koyaku produces can generate massive bursts of steam. These
Yes.
steam are so powerful that they can propel Koyaku in different directions, granting him excellent attack speed, evasive capabilities, and momentum.
And this isn't even that crazy too, because I mean, why am I Basarios? Not Basarios. Well, Basarios also has the vents, so does Gravios, but I mean, not Bracky. Why am I blanking on the name? Barith, whichever, the Mud Boy, Muddy Brute Wyvern. He has those vents on his head that he has his incredibly powerful exhaust, nostrils essentially, to the point where it sounds like a train whistle when he's charging at you. It's not out of the question for Brute Wyverns to have, crazy high pressure nostrils to facilitate the respiratory needs of their charging. For that to evolve even further into almost a pseudo Valstrax-like propulsion system? I mean, it's strange. Like, it's not within normal biology. I mean, it could be. I mean, there is octopi and stuff, and they basically have something similar to that, but actually, that's a pretty good comparison. It's almost like an octopus's, jet, except it's it's like modified nasal passages. That is really cool to me. I really like that.
Raged Koyaku will be rocketing across the battlefield in and out of range of hunter attacks, only to come crashing down at full force or only barely keeping up. And the ace up Koyaku's sleeve is effectively a combination of the other two abilities. He brings the tips of his blades and horns together and rockets forwards, turning himself into an unstoppable piercing death machine.
That is so cool.
Can charge several times in a row, and despite this seeming blindness, these charges can track pretty easily. Sheer power is the name of the game. It doesn't help that Koyaku can inflict water blight, which of course slows stamina recovery,
and of course he's got water blight too, because that makes sense. That explains the steam too. It's not just, exhaust preparation. It is water sacs mixing with the respiratory system to facilitate this high pressure steam to enhance his speed even further. That makes perfect sense in regards to Monster Hunter biology, and it is so cool.
Evading Koyaku's constant assault, much more taxing. His fight is super physical, and though that can often result in a fight that's not too eye-catching, his trademark charges and steam jets add a level of awe to his attacks that allow him to fight and move in a way that most other monsters can't.
I want to hunt this guy so badly. I want to hunt Koyaku so badly right now. I know I can't. Online's gone, and I don't think it has a fan server like Frontier allegedly does or doesn't. I don't. It's questionably legal. But I want to hunt this Koyaku so much, because this seems like such a fantastic monster, and it's the kind of monster that Brachydios is, where, yeah, it has a little bit of a gimmick, but it's not like, oh, I'm just going to throw a fireball at you or something. It's, I am going to fight you, and it is a fight. And I really love it when a monster does that. And this, I want to hunt you.
Triangular Rush is easily his most famous attack, but he also has access to tailspins, big haymaker punches, slams, steam-back rocket jumps, and lunges, and a really cool attack that's kind of like a shield rush where he jets forward with one of the flat edges of his arm blades. The fight looks like a lot of fun. The difficulty spike in these original monsters is starting to show itself loud and clear. Koyaku looks like a really good challenge, a proper test of reflexes, positioning, timing, and patience. Okay, so looking at his design through the lens of actually watching him fight, I still think there's some proportion issues going on here, but
I mean, if I want to be really generous to that, his back spines on his tail seem a little large, but really I'm not seeing that.
This render does him really dirty. I've known
Yeah.
about this guy for a good long
The
while.
render does do
and
him dirty.
thought he looked just terrible for a while. Something about his pose or angle really exacerbates design issues that I don't find as pertinent when watching him fights. The legs still seem a little scrawny and the tail's a bit thick, but
No. What do you mean?
taking time to get a
Let me get a
good look
pause
at
when he's
him
right here. Yeah, the bottom of his leg isn't immensely thick, but that's not where most of your leg strength comes from. Sure, you got, whatever on the. I'm not a medical guy. I'm not a weightlifting or thing guy, but just from my own understanding of how I walk, most of the power comes from the upper part of your leg, and you pushing. Oh, I'm probably talking out my butt here, but his upper legs feel thick enough to compensate for his lower legs being smaller, especially. I mean, look at a dog's leg, right? Especially their hind legs. The upper part of their leg is far larger, far thicker, and that's where most of their power comes from. It feels much the same here.
alleviate some of my less enthusiastic first impressions. His arm shell blade covered things look much sleeker, cooler, and more impressive on the outside than they do on the inside.
I mean, to an extent, yes. But on the inside, especially on this version of the render, they don't look that ridiculous and chonky to me even here, and it lets you see all the like how his hands are shaped almost circularly to almost vestigial at this point, and the way the armor or carapace bulks around the forearm, that I like it.
And the main render
so much
decides to show you the inside of both. You don't
Yeah, the main render is in a very bad position. I'm not going to contest that.
often see them like this. In game, you get what the design is going for. They're sharp, strong, aerodynamic. I also like the more chitinous insectoid exoskeleton texture he's got going on. It's a pretty distinct texture compared to that of other brute wyverns. I really like
It feels more rubbery than carapace, but I like it.
the small, beady yellow eyes that make Koyaku look like he's never known any emotion besides unfettered rage.
No, that's not. That's. Let me. Where? That's not rage. That's someone who is locked in and who wants the smoke. It's not so much rage as this guy wants the fight, wants the thrill of the hunt, wants to go. And maybe a little towards more on the sadistic side than what Brachydios is, but it's that same vibe that Brachydios has to me. It's wanting the smoke and wanting the fight, even more than
Koyaku look like he's never known any emotion besides unfettered rage. However, I still don't like the legs. Though not as
less rage,
stubby
more
as
battle
I
mania.
thought, they're way too skinny. And
Looking at him in motion, I don't think so. I disagree.
I do like the look of the tail as its own thing. It lacks the chitinous sheen of the torso and the almost...
See, I don't read it like that, though. I don't read this as being a chitinous. I read this as being a thick and very leather-like hide. This is very rubbery. Like, not so much, not, I guess leather isn't quite the best, but this is very rubbery, almost almost like Gypsyros. Yeah. And that almost makes sense to enable him to be super agile while still offering protection. I like it way more than you seem to.
Spikes make it look like it belongs to an aquatic creature. I think the look...
Well, with that, at high enough speed, I mean, its aquatic dynamics and aerodynamics aren't that dissimilar. It
kind of doesn't match up with the upper half of the body. There's a bit of a design inconsistency. Oh, and the green with red highlights is a good look. It reminds me of Deviljho, which I always enjoy. So, Koyaku the Disaster Wyvern.
Oh. He's got a decent ham slice.
He's weird one, but he's got a lot of merit. There's some design elements that would need fixing for me to really love him, but I think
Nah.
the fight looks excellent, and he's got a lot going for him that sets him apart super well from other brute wyverns. Of the monsters I've covered, I think he's got my favorite looking fight out of all of them. Hard to tell, I haven't actually fought him, but
Yeah.
it looks fun. See, this is why I love making these videos and why they're worth making. I went into the Frontier videos expecting to find some really cool ideas in a treasure trove of bloated mechanics and weirdos, and I fell in love with, I think, like 90% of that game's roster.
I might have to check out his Frontier video after this. I'll have to ask about that here in a bit, because it'd be interesting to see how his Frontier video contrasts Super Rat's. Because he seems to be going a lot more heavily on the monsters than Super Rat did, and that's what I was mainly looking at Frontier for. So it might be fun to check that out at a future date. But I don't know. I didn't love as many Frontier monsters as that sounds like he did, but I did like a lot more of them, a lot more than I was expecting. But I keep saying it, but I really like this guy, and I want to hunt him again. Almost said hunt him again like I've hunted him at all, but I want to hunt Koyaku so bad, and I severely hope Capcom somehow gets the rights to him to do that, because that would be so good.
Down for being a big, stupid-looking gremlin dinosaur with triangles glued to his hands, but
it's the most. No, this is a pure battle maniac. This monster is. See, Brachydios wants to box, to spar. This guy wants to fight, and I am here for it.
After actually seeing him, I was kind of wrong. I realized more and more that it sucks ass that these monsters are probably lost media.
Yeah.
Koyaku's gonna get
it sucks that so much, like you say. And you know what? Yeah.
9 for how much I'd like to fight him. How's that for a redemption story?
I'm going to go with 9 too, because fantastic monster. The only, and I mean, I almost want to give him a Koyaku a 10. I really do, but he needs just some sliver of something to push him even further. 9.5. You know what? We're breaking out the decimals. I'm giving Koyaku a 9.5. If he had or if I don't know about this, if he had Devil Joe lore or Brachydios lore of more ecological interaction knowledge about him would be needed to fully give him a 10, but he is so close to being a 10 for me. Look at that. Tell me that is not one of the coolest attacks you've ever seen a Brute Wyvern do. He's got a good theme too. Oh, look at that. It's so good. It is so good. He turns himself into a torpedo. Slice Margle. I thought this one was a Frontier monster. And I thought it was a Frontier monster because it's super spikes everywhere. Slice Margle, huh? I mean, you're a Zhang but a wolf. So far, this is Wolf for Zhang.
This list with a beaver modeled after Kongolala, and we continue on with a wolf modeled after Rajang.
See, Wolf for Zhang.
We also now go
Monster Hunter fan brain cell.
Monster Hunter's goofiest designs to goofiest names. Slice Margle is an imposing fanged beast modeled heavily after a wolf, yet utilizing the general frame, stance, and posture of Rajang. Strange
Yeah.
that they use the skeleton for a wolf monster when Frontier's Kamu and NOOO Orugaron aren't online, though perhaps they were added in after Slice Margle? I'm not certain. If that's the case, that would make a lot more sense. Slice Margle is an incredibly powerful predator who dwells within cold and mountainous regions. Strangely enough, despite his power, high placement on the food chain, and the likely scarcity of prey in this habitat, Slice Margle is a bit of a picky hunter. He's been sighted in Harmony.
I'm probably going to need to fix my tracking again. Hang on. Oh, nope, it looks like it's okay. Never mind.
With large herbivores like Popo and Enteca, going so far as to even protect them from other large predators.
Wait, what? Let me back that up. Hang on. I missed something there.
Slice Margle is a bit of a picky hunter. He's been sighted in Harmony with large herbivores like Popo and Enteca, going so far as to even protect them from other large predators. His
That is very interesting.
preferred prey are creatures he seems to deem as worthy challenges. Other large predators like KHEZU and mainline are far more up his alley, and humans don't seem to be exempt from his list of targets.
Well, of course not. Why are you saying that like that? Surprising. Humans and Wyverians and the other Trovarian, the others that are hunter having species. Look at what hunters do, right? And I know are the player characters like top of what hunters are, but I mean, I once did the calculations, and if I'm remembering my math correctly and my assumptions correctly, a hunter can dead swing over their head as like on the end of a flail over 200 tons. No, not kidding. If we take being able to fully fish out Plesioth seriously, Plesioth is as big as a blue whale, if not bigger. And if we assume that Plesioth is even remotely like comparable to the weight of a blue whale, of a larger end blue whale too, because Plesioth is larger than a good chunk of blue whales, it is fair to guesstimate Plesioth at being about 200 tons. If I am remembering my math correctly. I might not be, but if I am remembering it correctly, because I did this like a year ago, 2 ago, I'm pretty sure Plesioth is like 200 tons. I'm probably wildly off, actually. Hang on. I was going to do... Do you want... Shout out now if you want me to segue and recalculate that or not. Do you want to see me pause this and re-go through the math there or not? Not say anything? Give you just a moment. Because like I said, I'm probably wrong now that I'm thinking about I probably made an assumption somewhere wrong. Or I didn't. But even if we drop that down significantly, hunters are, I guarantee you, bare minimum, at least stronger than Spider-Man physically. Well, at least Spider-Man's stated strength of 20 tons. I guarantee hunters are stronger than that. Now, Spider-Man has comic book feats of nonsense, but hunters are absurdly strong if you actually bother to try and figure out how strong they are. It gets crazy. And if this guy's thing is almost like Yautja's worthy predator thing, it makes perfect sense that a hunter would be a part of that, because again, we wear the skin of gods. You know? I mean, not really gods, but hunters hunt elder dragons. Admittedly, only the best hunters. You get what I mean, right? Hunters are crazy. If this thing wants worthy foes, hunters fit that.
Among predators is a pretty interesting niche, honestly. He isn't competing for the same food as many of the other monsters near his caliber of strength, and the large herbivores Slice Margle guards likely serve as
I miss Gimprey, Glenprey, however you're supposed to pronounce them. Actually, I miss all of the insert, first part of the name prey monsters and their dromes, but Gimprey the most.
Bait for the
however you're supposed to say him, I can't remember. White Velocidrome.
He's got a pretty unique personality that lets him stand out from a lot of the other hyper-aggressive monsters out there. I think he's carved out a pretty cool little niche for himself. Alongside his raw strength and speed, the strongest weapons in Slice Margle's arsenal are the numerous bladed spikes jutting out of his arms and back. These
Hence the
spikes
Slice
are
Margle.
injectable and very easy for Slice Margle to regenerate, even if
Nergigante? Again, this sounds like it took from a similar Frontier monster too. This is both online and Frontier had Nergigante before Nergigante, it seems like. And now that I know that this is a Nergigante type situation with his arm spikes, I like them a lot more.
His arms and back are wounded, these broken spikes will reconstitute over the course of the battle, making Slice Margle one of very few monsters across the entire series capable of repairing damaged body parts. These parts can only be broken when enraged, and although they will eventually reconstitute themselves, shattering these spikes will buy you some time where they cannot be fired from his broken body parts. And
That's
the benefit
fun.
to this is that making contact with these ejected spikes will inflict the stabbed status.
Stabbed. Is that like Turbo Bleed?
As cool as that sounds, the stabbed status isn't really that bad. It
Oh.
works almost the exact same as Sir Regios's bleed status, yet
Yeah.
somehow seems to do even less damage.
So it's even worse bleed. Like worse as in not as powerful. I mean, okay.
I noticed that a lot of his basic physical attacks, particularly when he's enraged, are very similar to Rajang's physical attacks.
Yeah.
But with follow-ups that
I noticed that
Rajang
too.
doesn't have, which is pretty cool. At least the mainline Rajang. I haven't watched the online Rajang fight. For example, when Slice Margle does these side-to-side hops, he'll end it with a turnaround, which Rajang doesn't do. When he does Rajang's diving punch, he'll come out of it with a roll into another punch. And when he does Rajang's spin attack, he combos it into a leap that slams back down hard. Additionally, there's a good bit of similarity here with Frontier's Hutikiki. The both of them
It's interesting to see that compared side by side with Rajang.
having numerous attacks where they'll lunge up into the air and send barrages of spikes shooting down to the ground, leaving dangerous traps for you to avoid should the
I think there's the Frontier monster I was actually thinking of a second ago.
initial pelting of
Maybe.
spikes miss their mark. On top of this, he has some of his own punches, slams, and swipes that are animations unique to him. His fight seems a tad derivative, and I think I'd like to see maybe 3 more attacks that are wholly unique to him. I do appreciate the fact that he took a good chunk of animations from an established monster and retooled almost all of them in ways that make these attacks look pretty fresh. And this
It is nice that they retooled and respun it to make it unique for him. But this does just, to me, at least so far, feel like Rajang with a moral code and bleed instead of thunder.
spike traps and spike shots add an extra level of flair to some of these moves he borrowed from Rajang. He was able to make a lot of these moves feel like his own. Not my favorite fight that I've seen so far on this list, but I can appreciate some of the innovations being made here. His design's another funky looking one. I definitely prefer him from the side as opposed to straight on. I think that
Yeah, his design made me think he was a Frontier monster with how spikes everywhere he is. It makes a lot more sense now that I know he is a spike thrower, but it does feel very Frontier.
this more canine facial structure can look a little odd on a body frame built for primates at certain angles. He definitely looks kind of weird on 2 legs as well, that's for sure. His spikes I'm a bit torn on. On the one hand, the blue and bone coloration is pretty cool, and I kind of like the shape of his spikes, but they look way thicker and more dull on his body than they do when fired off in his attacks.
Yeah. That's probably part of what's throwing me. Right now, they don't even look so much like spikes as like pointed long scale layering, almost more defensive than offensive.
And a lot of other monsters who have armor on their forelimbs, he really looks like he's wearing just spiky gauntlets.
Yes.
So this really tall poof of fur he's got going on and the massive crest coming off of his head look kind of goofy from straight on. His color scheme is pretty great though.
Yeah.
I really like the long white fur with the black tiger stripe pattern, and the dark blue spikes stand out pretty nicely against the otherwise almost exclusively black and white color palette. Yeah, this design is a little bit of a toss-up for me. I really like it at certain angles, I don't like it at others, and like Caesarbur, I do like this concept of taking the monkey skeleton and branching it out to completely different types of mammals. Slice Margle is a monster with a lot of give and take to him. I think he's got a pretty unique personality and niche. I'd love to see his behaviors played out in a Monster Hunter title that has a more ecological focus. His design works for me more than it.
His design doesn't work. his design doesn't work for me that much, if I'm being honest. It feels very generic to me. This is like he's a wolf with throwing knives that uses a monkey skeleton. That sounds cooler than it is to me, or like than it's done here to me. Like nothing about him is particularly grabbing to me. It doesn't feel wrong. Like he could exist in Monster Hunter, but he doesn't. It's interesting that he does the predator of predators, not hunting regular herbivores and stuff. That is cool. But that doesn't really save his design from being as meh as it is to me.
Doesn't, but there are aspects that I really don't enjoy. His fight has a lot of borrowed animations, but with follow-ups and properties that keep them somewhat fresh. I think Slice Margle is a good monster, but there's a good amount of weaknesses here too. I'll give him, I think, a high 6 for how much I'd like to see.
Honestly, I'll give him a lower 6 because he's okay. He's all right. He's a little interesting. Not really. I mean, you know what? No, I'm gonna give him a 5. Straight out, you could take him or leave him. I'm giving him a 5. It's cool that he has the Hunter of Hunters thing, in theory, but nothing about his design says that. Nothing about how he fights really says that to me. Yeah, I'm gonna get, you know what, 5.5. Little more, I like him a little more than complete apathy of him, but it's nearly apathy.
In mainline Monster Hunter.
Not a bad theme though. Again, pretty much. I will say I like his tail. About the best part of his design is his tail. But if you made him look more like a Wulg, if you made him look more like World's Wulg or Iceborne's Wulg, I think I'd like him more if he had the color scheme like that. I like this map though. The snow on the redstone. That's a nice looking map. Didn't even think about that till just now.
Australian.
Ooh, he was the Boxar dragon. I think. That's a nice theme.
And we have now arrived at the flagship of Monster
Hunter. Yes,
Online.
the flagship.
The fiery, the beautiful, the rare, and the enigmatic Australian, the Star Wyvern. Australian makes quite the striking first impression, not too dissimilar from the typical Elder Dragon shape of Kushalador or Teostra, but greatly elongated and lacking in any wings. That is until a swarm of large, colorful insects known as star butterflies attach themselves to her hide, creating an elaborate set of winged armor for the creature. Fun fact, Australian is the only community-named monster, and from what I've read, some of the proposed names had a feminine lean to them, insinuating that Australian is female. Heck, one of her official titles is the Princess of Light and Darkness. Additionally, Australian is one of the 2 monsters categorized as a triple question mark, and much like her counterpart in this category, Gormagala, she is stated to be the juvenile form of an elder dragon.
It does read that way, as juvenile elder or a demi-elder, using modern parlance. It's interesting that it uses butterfly. I haven't actually gone through all of Rise, base Rise, let alone Sunbreak, but it's interesting that they had the idea for a butterfly symbiosis monster and then later brought that back.
Fortunately, due to Online's life cycle being cut short, we never got to know what this Elder Dragon was.
Oh, that is very sad, actually. Oh. That hurts me inside. Like the design, I'm leaning positive of neutral at the moment with its design. I haven't seen enough of it to go either way yet. But the fact that it was a demi elder and we never got to see the full elder form, that's sad.
We may never know. Australian
Yeah.
is quite the odd monster, deserving of her unknown classification. She is rarely seen, not particularly aggressive unless challenged, and dwells in rather remote parts of the world. Some so remote that they have yet to be found.
Almost a Latreon-like there.
Experts aren't sure that they know exactly where Australians' core territory is. Wherever they go, Australians seem to be towards the top of the pecking order, only
I mean, yeah, it's a demi elder. Of course, it's going to be that level.
challenged by the top-level monsters an ecosystem has at its disposal. Even stranger is her relationship with the star butterflies that stay close to her. These butterflies seem to generate their own fiery power, a power that Australian can manipulate and draw upon. They will follow her commands diligently, defending her, augmenting her strength, attacking designated targets, and even detonating in fiery bursts when full.
Do you know what that sounds like? You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like a kinsect. That sounds like a kinsect. Australian is a kinsect symbiosis demi elder dragon. It uses kinsect because the star butterflies sound so. That's a kinsect or multiple.
It's unclear why this relationship exists, though there are numerous theories. It can take quite a lot to rile up an Australian. They're rather calm by nature, and their tendency to wander means they aren't super territorial, but those who do rile an Australian up seldom live to regret it.
Yeah, demi elder.
So I'm really rooting for Australians' two variations to do some really cool stuff. Because
Yeah.
Australian has a few neat things she can do, but man, I was whelmed watching this fight. Australian
Yeah. The monster looks way cooler than the fight has been looking.
has three forms: her typical form, her armored form, and her winged form. And those first two don't seem to last very long and are almost kind of like borderline pointless. And it might be for the best, honestly, because she seems pretty slow in her core form and her armored form. In her standard form, her attacks are purely physical. A few paw swipes and bite attack combos here and there, though her favorite weapon absolutely seems to be her incredibly long tail, whose range will be an issue for the entire fight if it isn't severed. When she takes enough damage, a very cool animation plays where her star butterflies assemble in crisscross patterns, surrounding her until forming blade-deflecting armor across her body. This state reinforces many of her weak points and guards potentially breakable body parts.
That is very fun. And I do like the design. It reads very Asian dragon. I mean, obviously, but the fight itself hasn't done anything crazy, but the concept and the look is really good.
She's not particularly fast here either, but can shoot off several star butterflies at the ground as explosive projectiles. Additionally, a swarm of butterflies will almost always stick by her. After very little time, again, she'll swap to her winged form, and this is by far the coolest state that she has. It's signaled in by the very cool transformation sequence once again, and these glowing insect wing-like scales erupt all over her body, glowing with the flaming energy she's absorbed from the star butterflies.
And that definitely is the best look for them. But I mean, this is blast powder. The butterflies that are basically the star butterflies that are basically her kinsects produce blast powder like kinsects can do for insect glaive wielders. This makes sense.
This is the mode worth talking about, and the fight here is fine, but I won't lie, I wasn't expecting more. She keeps her arsenal of physical attacks from her original state and adds on to the attack list with more spins, tail lunges into tail sweeps, as well as body slams, lunges, and charges. There is also the ever-present threat of her calling her swarming butterflies to home in on you and dive at you at high speed. For this attack, the damage of the exploding bugs sounds noteworthy, but I don't think the tracking is too precise, and they don't bombard you terribly fast. I rarely saw them hit their mark during the fights I watched. Honestly, the two biggest things you gotta watch out for are her tail and the sheer speed of her attack animations. Her tail is massive and probably her most used weapon. Severing it can reduce her difficulty quite a bit. Speaking of, what is interesting about Australian's fight is the special mechanics to her horn and tail breaks. These parts can only be damaged in her base form, and for her tail to be severed in her winged form, you must get the initial break in her unarmored state.
Otherwise you can't, I'm presuming. That is a interesting mechanic. It puts you on a time crunch to focus on the damage zones of the part you want to break. It seems like it's a mechanic that could be pretty frustrating, but at the same time, I do like it.
Otherwise, there is no way to cut the tail later on.
Yeah.
When she's at low health, it is possible to knock her out of her winged form back to her base to restart the cycle. However, according to one of the content creators I was watching, you can only get that first tail break and the horn break the first time she's unarmored.
Yeah, if you're gonna have her be able to reset to base mode, make her breakables still be breakable.
If you knock her back to her first phase, you can't get those breaks. If that's true, that sounds like a mistake on the programming side of things.
Yeah.
That's a really weird choice. Yeah, man. There's the occasional cool attack here and there. The bug swarm is neat. The concept I really like.
Yeah.
With the base Australian, at least, it feels like they got in the basic Elder Dragon physical attacks and started to conceptualize her shenanigans with her bugs and armored forms and projectiles, but ran out of time to fully formulate these parts of her.
Yeah. That feels about right. It's a very cool idea, a very cool looking monster. The potential is there, but it's missing that actual special sauce of the fight itself. And I don't know, maybe if they'd have managed to make the full Elder Dragon instead of the Demi-Elder, question mark, form, that could have changed. And I really hope, I was about to say I really hope it does, but this online's over and licensing issues, probably never going to see a Stellian again. Which again sucks when stuff like that happens so much. I want to like this one. I really do, because it seems so interesting. But the fight, like you said, the fight is so half-baked feeling.
Disappointed watching this fight. I had to watch the battle back like a couple of times just to remember what attacks she actually did. I haven't seen her two other forms yet as of writing this, so here's hoping she comes back with a vengeance. Now, the design, on the other hand, I don't think I have any complaints. This is a gorgeous looking creature. She takes the traditional Elder Dragon skeleton and toys with it in her own way, ditching the conventional wings for a sleeker and longer body, neck, and tail. The dark orange and brown scales give her a nice imposing base color scheme and serve as a nice dark base for the brighter contrasting elements that we'll get as she evolves. The cream colored spines lining her body look great on her orange scales and aren't overly long or awkward or overbearing, and I love the array of horns she has on her face. Though plentiful, the swept back alignment they share keeps the face from looking too messy, and her facial structure is very traditionally draconic, nice and intimidating and ferocious. There's a pretty cool blend of Eastern and Western dragons baked into her look that comes together really well.
The head feels more Western Dragon, but the rest of the body screams Eastern Dragon to me. And it is such a good design, but like I said, half-baked fight.
There's also this fiery substance.
I didn't even notice that. That is
her hide.
That is a cool
design through these translucent patterns on her torso.
That is such a good design element, and maybe that's what is used. It's some pheromone goop or something that's used to control the butterflies. I don't know.
But there's lava burning beneath the surface and fueling the dragon. The
It's a
armored
good
form
design.
isn't too much to write home about. Very much the same dragon, but with a dark brown solid substance on her horns, claws, and tail. This one's probably her weakest design. I think it especially makes her horns look worse. The winged form is what we're really looking at here. Her render does a decent enough job on selling how cool she looks. This already sick-looking wingless dragon covered in scales comparable to those of insectoid wings is a pretty neat image on its own, but it's nothing compared to watching the actual creature in motion. These insect-like wing structures standing tall across her back, claws, and tail, all glowing and empowered by the flame burning at her core. From a distance, it looks like steady jets of fire erupting out of her back. But up close, you can see the intricate beauty of these wing-like structures. I think this is an exceptionally well-designed monster.
Yeah, it is a very well-designed monster. It's the same issue with Val Hazak for me, except even more so, because Val Hazak still has his effluvium attacks and stuff. They feel, but Val Hazak is one of the more forgettable Elder Dragons for me because, I mean, the fight's over really quickly if you got maxed effluvium resist, and for at least a glaive main like I was in World, none of his attacks really could do anything to you if you were paying even slightest amount of attention. And this feels much the same, except even worse, because it doesn't really do anything particularly special combat-wise. It has some swipes, its bugs will attack you, but nothing too crazy. And that's sad.
I feel about Australian kind of the same way I felt about Beladay, only with each emotion magnified. I really love her conceptually. I adore the design. I think she has a very cool placement in the ecosystem. She has a few attacks that are kind of unique, but there's also a ton that are just simple. And the concept of Australian really does not seem wholly actualized here. What's worse...
Yeah, I mean, I keep agreeing with you, but I'm agreeing with you here too.
Is the probably lost potential of her final form. Considering her wingless body and clear Eastern Dragon inspiration, I get the feeling we maybe might have seen a final form based heavily on the serpentine dragons of Chinese mythology. Yeah.
And that would have been so cool, too. Because I one of the biggest things that I'm annoyed about missing 4th Gen is not getting to hunt the 3 snake wyverns that exist. And I love Leviathans for that more graceful serpentiness of them for the ones that are like that at least. And this feels like it has so much potential, and even if it doesn't have it in its base craziness in its base form, if online got to go on long enough that it got its full-fledged Elder Dragon form, there is so much potential here. And it's probably never going to get actualized, and that hurts. Even for someone who's never played online.
We've had a few big serpentine elder dragons, but nothing quite like the wise and powerful beasts of Eastern folklore. That's just my speculation, could be complete and utter nonsense, but I totally could have seen that being the reality, and we may never know. I'm gonna rake Australian with Beladay at a 7 out of 10 for wanting to see her again.
Yeah, I'll give him a 7 too. Again, our opinions are seem to keep aligning almost exactly, so more and more evidence to the Monster Hunter fans sharing a brain cell, but 7 out of 10 feels fair. If she had a more interesting fight, I would give it an 8 out of 10, but the pure weight of the concept alone and the what could have been with her full elder form, yeah, well, I'll go 7 too.
Sure, another pass of this flagship for online could have reaped some great rewards, and like I said, there's 2 more Australian to check out in a bit.
Oh, thank GOG.
Maybe she'll get...
Thank GOG Mazios. This... huge relief right there, okay.
The chance, but the regular incarnation of this mysterious dragon just kinda came up a little short.
So this isn't really an online thing, but I love that his main source of footage, his main source of footage is using the Shingaran Greatsword or the online version of it, because I loved the Shingaran Greatsword, even if I didn't use it all that much in Freedom Unite. Oh, I didn't realize what time it was. Yeesh. And we're not even halfway through. I mean, I've probably... How far are we through? We're only at like 47 minutes here. How long have we been running this? We've been going for... Not actually showing me on my thing. Okay. Oh, nope. We've been doing this for over 2 hours, and we're only 40 minutes through the video. I mean, I think that's... Okay. I think we're gonna end up splitting this in half, actually, now that I've realized how long it's been. And we'll probably cover the second half or so of the video another day, but we'll go a couple more monsters. See if we find one that's a good stuff. Ooh! That's a turtle. That's a turtle. And I like turtles. And it has, like, Ucantlos's face, but on a turtle, mixed with the one from Frontier that people thought might have a snail-like digestive tract. That... Render alone, that's strong. This is a good design. I'm assuming it's a sand swimmer.
For every time a single country exclusive Monster Hunter MMO had a reddish brown sand dwelling turtle monster that fired projectiles out of its back shell like cannonballs, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. You know what else is
also, it's funny that you're using the item pickup sound effect as a censor, because that's what the item command does.
An elder dragon built like a sea turtle that can fly.
That is so good.
Only ever
Wait, you can fly? This is a flying monster?
Seen one monster from Monster Hunter Online. It was probably Tartaronus. This magnificent oddity is among the most wonderfully bad ideas that Monster Hunter has ever coughed up. Tartaronus is an all-consuming monstrosity that terrorizes desert regions, hunting unchallenged and eating pretty much everything unlucky enough to be in its path. He is capable of digging, damn near swimming through desert sands at high speeds.
Yeah, he's a sand swimmer.
Combatant on the ground, and when push comes to shove, he utilizes a massive amount of hot air created by his body to lift himself up into the air and maintain sustained flight. All while broadsiding you with the spikes on its back and creating dust devil tornadoes by flapping his flippers. This fight has a few layers to it. For the most part, you'll be fighting him on the ground, where he'll loom over the battlefield propped up on his 2 massive front flippers. Here, he's got a decent collection of moves, each with their own large windups, so you'll see what's coming, which is pretty necessary considering his massive hitboxes and damage. He can lunge forwards, slam his body down, rush ahead on his flippers, make sweeping attacks with the flippers, swing his tail in wide arcs, and
the flopping nature of his attacks is fantastic.
Fire off several spikes from his back and artillery angles that you can anticipate by watching for their shadows on the ground. For a massive monster, this grounded fight looks decent. The collection of moves is solid, slow, and pretty easily readable, but the hurt boxes are also very vast. And as I said, the damage is significant. It's your typical gives and takes for a giant monster fight in this franchise.
But this feels like a very fun giant monster fight.
We've gotten to the point in modern Monster Hunter where the big fights on the ground are much better, but this looks like a fairly well-constructed middle point between the extremely passive massive monsters of the 1st and 2nd generations and the destructive gods of the 4th and the 5th generations. The part about this fight that impressed me the least was when he digs below ground. This portion of the duel looks like it's kind of meandering. It's of a similar vein to that of Ukanlos's ice-breaking shark attack chase that it's feared for, where
Yeah.
the massive back of Tartaronus emerges out of the sand and he'll pursue targets from underground. But it just kind of lacks any and all of the urgency and sense of terror created by Ukanlos's famous pursuit. There is a lot of just kind of
Move out of the
plodding
way.
along here, made worse by the fact that online's quests only have a 30-minute time limit, and
Yeah, I can see how that could be especially annoying then if you've only got 30 minutes to do this. See, instead of having that be a phase, I'd make that just an attack like Ukanlos's diving charge, which Ukanlos is another monster I really wish I got to hunt. I mean, I know he's in Freedom Unite, but Ukanlos is pretty much the only thing in Freedom Unite I hadn't done before I kind of stopped playing it, so...
Tartaronus has a lot of health. This would need to be made much more aggressive and heavily expedited if it were ever to be done again.
Very much so. But it's still a really fun concept for a monster, and I'm liking what I'm seeing so far.
Now, when this bad boy flies, that's what you're really here to see. And from what I've seen, when Tartaronus takes to the skies, he is a bit more aggressive. As a little...
That feels a little funky to me, the fact that they can just do that. I mean, Amatsu and 2 from Rise that I never actually got to yet, but it's a little funky that I can do that. I mean, I guess there's some logic of the hot air stuff, but he feels too big for that to work. This feels like him actually flying feels like it breaches over into the this is just magic now territory a little too much. At the same time, it is such a cool visual.
More room to move around and can do some pretty cool stuff. But he's also super tough to hit, and you're more or less just trying to bring him down as quick as possible with a ballista binder. I think he looks super cool up in the air like this, but the combat here would definitely need some work if it were to ever be reinterpreted. The point of Tartaronus is that he's a gigantic flying sand turtle dragon, but you kinda need to take him out of the air as soon as possible. While he's up there, he's wreathed in a sand aura that can ensnare and entrap you. Flaps of his flippers can kick up long-lasting dust devils that can sweep you up into the air, and he can tilt himself on his axis a little bit and legitimately fire off a bombardment broadside of spikes at the ground like he's a frigate warship.
That is fantastic. If they toned him down slightly from outright flying to just being like crazy long glides augmented by wind, like the hot air stuff, I could buy that a lot more within the grounds of Monster Hunter. And you could still let him do the broadside blast as an attack, but he like jumps up to do it. I think that would be better. I'm gesturing with my hands like you can see me doing a motion for the turtle to be flying over, but I don't have motion tracking for that. Probably just messing up my own tracking if I'm being honest, but this is a very fun concept.
Is wickedly awesome to behold, and perhaps the most impressive display.
Oh, you do get siege gear. Good.
But the game doesn't really have the tools to capitalize on it, encouraging you to end the fun pretty much as soon as it begins. I adore the concept and the visuals, but it looks like Tartaronus may have been a bit too ambitious. He also looks excellent. He's a gigantic sea turtle with a draconic style to it. I don't know what else you could ask for, honestly.
I mean, it's a dragon turtle. Like, it's a dragon turtle with Ukanlos's face. What more can you ask for in terms of its design? It is fantastic.
The shape of a sea turtle lends itself pretty well to a flying.
I do feel like the cannons seemingly come from nowhere a little bit. If there was a bit more of a visual indicator on its sides, like some kind of slit, or the spines actually detaching and then resprouting, it'd be a bit better. But
monster,
older
actually,
game.
using his massive fins and tail to steer himself around a little bit as he swims through the sky. It's imposing and also kind of graceful looking. His color scheme is fitting, if not terribly striking. He's got a reddish brown color for his shell with a light tan, nearly cream color for the highlights on his crest, spines, and flippers. It's perfectly fine and appealing looking for a desert monster. I do like the somewhat wing membrane-like texture off of some of his dorsal plates. I couldn't find anything definitive, but perhaps they are additional smaller fins that assist with tighter air control. I don't know. They open up a little bit
Sounds
more
reasonable.
in the air, so I think that might be the case. And in doing so, they make him look even larger and scarier when he's up in the air with all those spikes propped up back a little bit more. Pretty sick detail.
It is a very impressive aerial silhouette, even if it makes very little sense. Also, I don't know where this image comes from, probably opening cinematic, but it is... This shows you the terror of a creature like this.
Also, serving to make him look more intimidating are the twin points coming off of the chin and the brow. I don't think he'd look nearly as intimidating without them. With the exception of the snapping and Michael Bay species, turtles are generally not particularly scary looking, so these two massive spearheads coming right for you, threatening to skewer you, are necessary additions in that extra fear factor that Tartaronus needs. I think Tartaronus is an incredible concept found within a game that may have bitten off a bit more than it could chew with him.
A little bit, yeah.
The air alone is an image that sticks in the mind. It makes you go, damn, this franchise is bat insane, and I love it. Whenever Monster Hunter Online comes up, Tartaronus is one of the first images conjured in my head. I don't think his fight looks half bad, but it certainly has some...
Monster Hunter can get even mainline, and this is the spin-off side, so one of the spin-offs, so they can get crazier with it, but Monster Hunter does get pretty crazy, but at the same time, it does so in a way that feels real and grounded in its own universe, right? I talked about this a lot with Frontier, mostly in complaining about Frontier not always doing this, but it feels... So far, all of these, with the slight exception of Tartaronus flying, have fit into that. Even if one or two haven't had particular... Well, mostly just Slice McGruel hasn't had a hugely gripping design, but... I guess, and Jibs Roast too, but these ones all of them feel like they could be in Monster Hunter. And they have that same, this is a creature in this world and a part of this world feeling that I love from Monster Hunter. The best thing about Monster Hunter is how real the world feels. And how immersed you can be in it. Even in the oldest of games, they put in so much effort to make the world feel like it exists and that there is an entire planet beyond the limited hunting areas you can be in. It always feels alive and interconnected and words not wording. You get what I mean. That's the thing I love most about Monster Hunter. And I don't know how I got back onto this topic, so ending the tangent.
Weaknesses. I think the modern era of broader maps and enhanced verticality that we're getting into with Monster Hunter games now would have served Tartaronus very well.
That, or like I said, limiting his aerial motion and flight to be more of a gliding thing rather than a full-on flying. Because the full-on flying is a little goofy, but if it's just a delayed, slow glide and he can launch himself up real far, it makes more sense to me. More almost like a flying fish rather than like a sky bison from Avatar.
I really don't think he needs all that much work. The design is
that's what it feels like. It feels like like Appa from Avatar: The Last Airbender. This thing shouldn't be flying, but is somehow, and it's too big and bulky for it to be like some kind of wind gliding thing, except that is the reason it does it. It's just, I don't know.
The concept is memorable, and the moveset could maybe use a few more punch-ups, but it doesn't look awful at all. I think Tartaronus is gonna get a 9 for how much...
I'm going to give him an 8. because I do like a lot of it. But if it was going to come back, it would need a fair bit of reworking. Like, at the very least, some indication more of how its of its launching cannon spines can actually work. And like I said, maybe make its flight more of a glide. But 8's still pretty decent, I think, and it is a very interesting monster.
I'd like to see him brought into mainline Monster Hunter. I think we absolutely have the technology nowadays to make this fight incredible.
Oh, absolutely, we do. I mean, imagine this thing soaring over the dunes in the Windward Plains. That would be sick. Where do those spines? Oh, he's got these. Okay, that makes a bit more. Now I'm seeing these. Okay, I see where the spines come from now. Oh, this was another one I thought was a frontier monster because I've seen pictures of him. Doesn't he do some really crazy things? I'm curious. I think we'll watch Murphistopheles and then we will cut it for this stream, and then we'll come back and finish it up on the next one. Oh, that is some high-end Elder Dragon music. I mean, obviously, but... It might just be sharing the Vitaloskeleton, but this feels very Black Dragon tier threat. Just from how it's moving. And the music.
There is one final unique foe to cover in Monster Hunter Online. One final challenge. And at the
oh, well, then I guess it's perfect that this is going to be the one we stop after, and then I guess after this, it's subspecies? I mean, so I guess, yeah, perfect stopping point after this.
Apex of this charming MMO stands one of the privileged few. A first-class dangerous monster. A peer of the Black Dragons.
I knew it.
Feared and revered creature dwelling deep in hellish and hostile corners of the planet. One who invokes the silhouette of the most feared creature in Monster Hunter's history. A living skeleton engulfed in roaring flame and dragon lightning.
How it's flying?
Who feeds upon the powers.
Okay, its wing membranes have to either be really clear or it's... That's the one part of the design that's throwing me. Its skeleton finger wings.
Of his very foes, the barren disaster dragon feeds upon the in roaring flame and dragon lightning. A glutton who feeds upon the powers of his very foes.
What?
The barren disaster dragon Murphistopheles.
Does it do a Arkveld-like energy training thing?
Pretty sick that this spin-off Monster Hunter MMO, helmed by another company, contains one of the legendary forbidden monsters.
Yeah.
Is a beast sharing the frame, size, and a few attacks of the almighty Fatalis, and a somewhat similar power set to a Latrion. But I'm happy to report that he most certainly has a lot of his own merits. Murphistopheles has one of the most intriguing methods of amassing power. On his stomach is an exposed core. It is a rather vulnerable point on his body, but the benefits of this obvious weak points balance out the drawbacks. With this core, Murphistopheles can absorb elemental power, strengthening his own...
I'm sorry, that poor hunter over there. There's some rookie barely able to handle Rathalos in Cenatar armor, and then Black Dragon level threat rocks up behind them. Dear God.
Body with whatever he comes in contact with. The fire power, strengthening his own body with whatever he comes in contact with. The fire of Rathalos may sting his hide, but Murphistopheles can make that fire his own.
It is Latrion's, not Latrion, it is Arkveld's elemental absorption. Wow, okay, that is... You gotta wonder if they took the idea from this or not. But also... He looks like a guard. Now that I'm thinking about it and thinking about Arkveld, this looks like a guardian monster. Almost like another attempt of like Zoshia to mimic the power of a white dragon, but this time of a black dragon. but this time drawing not from Fatalis bits, but the elemental absorption of Arkveld. Conspiracy theory time. I mean, not, because non-canon to mainline, even less than Frontier, and probably not owned by Capcom, but fun to speculate.
Amplify it tenfold.
Oh, and look at it. Let me try and back it up and pause at just the right moment.
But Mephistophelen can make that fire his own and amplify
Let me
it.
pause it. Whoa, right there. Look at the jaggedy purple lightning marks on his face and tell me that doesn't look exactly like the marks on Guardian monsters. No, this is probably going to be the end boss of my Monster Hunter Wild Zenith Dawn idea. I think, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to look into it more. Finish this discussion on him. I really like this, and especially with the Guardian monster connection that I'm entirely fabricating in my head, but tasty speculation juices.
This is an amazingly cool biological asset. A tool not quite like any we've seen before. The unfortunate reality
Almost like it was
is that
artificial.
This mechanic of Mephistophelen's ecology isn't used in his actual fight. It's somewhat understandable why this is. He'd probably have to live in an environment that had access to several elemental powers at once, or deliberately seek out other monsters to get this up and running.
Arkveld.
Or maybe he could siphon the elements off of hunter weapons, something like that. Those could be some neat ideas. And although this kind of interaction wouldn't be mandatory to make the Mephistophelen fight good, it is a tad disappointing that this aspect of his biology is explored in a cutscene and then never really played with. There's some good room for creativity here. The fight.
Like, imagine we get this guy in Wild's expansion, or something like that. He fits so well with Wild's Guardian plotline and Arkveld, and Capcom, maybe, almost certainly not, but can you imagine? The thought of this is making me incredibly eager for something that I know is impossible, but can you see it like I can see it?
Itself, as is, looks pretty damn good. It certainly looks a little slow and meticulous, but not meandering. Starting out, Mephistophelen is a purely physical attacker. He will almost exclusively remain up on his hind legs, attacking using his massive tail, stone-slicing claws, body slams, a slithering crawl, and probably my favorite thing he does is where he will run on two legs at you, cross up behind you, and snap at you with his jaws. I think there's a reason why Fatalis doesn't run. This looks absolutely hilarious, and I adore it. Given a bit of time, he'll rise up into the air, curl himself up, and burst with either dragon or fire, randomly entering one of his two modes. Both modes are easily recognizable, so you'll know what you're dealing with. Dragon turns his spikes and glowing insides a dark pink with a sinister fire filling in his wing membranes. His fire form turns all the same body parts a bright orange and lights up his wing membranes with bright yellow and orange flames.
Now, so, again, imagine him in Wilds and revealed to be another equal dragon weapon attempt Guardian monster, like Zoshia, except based off of Arkveld and Fatalis rather than Fatalis, Gasmagorm, and a couple others. And potentially Samult too in Zoshia's case. Whatever Samult turns out to be, if it turns out to be anything. Would that not? And then you have a very similar to Arkveld plotline of him going around targeting the other apexes. But this time, he could 100% manhandle Jin Dahad. So he gets an ice mode. He can easily enough handle Rei Dao getting the thunder mode. He can easily handle Uthduna getting a water mode, probably, maybe. Or he targets Elder Dragons that are introduced in the Master Rank or Zenith Rank expansions. Because I like the idea of adding a Z rank expansion, because that would be cool after Frontier, looking at Frontier.
In both modes, he has access to a variety of ranged attacks.
But I'm not the only one that can see this, right? Like, probably what's more accurate is that they took ideas from this and heavily adapted and converted them into, wilds, taking inspiration. But can you not see it?
And the ability to fly, as his wing membranes have ignited and fully formed. Both states have more or less the same attacks, but certain properties here are altered. In his dragon state, his main projectile is a concentrated draconic beam, whereas in his fire state, it's a spread shot of high-velocity fireballs. In his draconic state, his slithering crawl pours dragon energy into the ground, inflicting an automatic stun upon those who touch the tainted earth. And in his fire form, he ignites the ground he walks on when he crawls. His biggest attack is a shower of draconic lightning bolts in one state, and a ground
Reminiscent of White Fatalis.
Searing flame burst in the other. Very similar attacks, but with enough difference that they don't feel simply like palette-swapped moves. Additionally, he can fire off his breath attacks while flying, as well as dive bomb opponents and sweep the area with his long tail. I like the look of this fight a lot. It feels like an improvement off of the original Fatalis battle of the past, with some great aesthetics, a good...
It's like if you took OG Fatalis fight, but made it a Guardian monster with Arc-Veiled shtick. I know Arc-Veiled is later, and they probably took ideas, but again, my conspiracy theorist, can you imagine, is going turbo mode right now.
High damage, and a fairly consistent flow of moveset changes to keep the battle engaging. The design here is pretty darn good too. I especially really like the skeletal concept here. A lot of bone texture, and
I didn't like it at first, just from the renders of him I'd seen, but seeing it in motion and understanding how he works, and the Guardian monster conspiracy theory that I have not stopped mentioning, it works really well in that context.
Color on the
he has a xenomorph tail. Look at that. That is flat out 100% a xenomorph tail. I just caught that. Like it down to the little vertebrae secondary blades up until like right here. That is the tail of a xenomorph, just color corrected for this guy.
Monsters in this game, I'm noticing. He's looking like a walking Fatalis skeleton, incredibly lithe, head to tail in an abundance of rigid bone collar plating. I love his membrane-devoid wings, the bones of the wings themselves looking like long taloned fingers with almost kind of like a spinal cord-looking set of ridges on them. I'm a little iffy on his face. It's kind of...
The more I see his face up close, the more I vibe with it, though. The more it feels bird-like. And like a carrion-eating scavenger bird.
Hard to place why. It might be the overbite. I don't think it's the downward pointed jaw. It could be the teeny, beady, emotionless little black eyes.
Those, actually, I really like him having tiny, beady, void eyes. It sells the "this is a monster" vibe.
That might be it, honestly. It could be like a mix of things. Maybe I find the lack of expressiveness a little off-putting in the mouth.
No, I think the lack of expressiveness works really well for this monster. It sells that there is... It's like looking at a shark, right? Like a shark in predator mode. You know?
Shape a little cartoony. I don't think his face looks necessarily bad, but there's something tickling my brain in a way that doesn't take him super seriously, which contrasts a bit with how spooky I find the rest of him. I don't hate it, but there's something, I guess, kind of cartoony about it. Also a little
disagree there
is his exposed purple elemental core with a whole bunch of like teeth-looking spikes wrapped around it, which makes
that is... Until you look at Fatalis' chest and Elatrion's chest that almost have a vaguely similar apparatus, and B, go with the conspiracy theory that I have immediately developed and refuse to let die, that this is not a natural monster, but a Guardian monster that uses bits of Arc-Veiled and Fatalis and melds them together into this second equal dragon threat.
It look like this evil sci-fi door. I do really like the marks of purple all over his face and his wings.
Yeah, the purple marks that look very similar to a other set of purple marks we've seen splashed across similar areas of similarly discolored and alternate monsters that were later shown to be artificial constructs. I've got to stop doing this every 12 seconds, but come on, you got to see this. I can't be the only one.
his torso, which will all light up bright with his spikes when he enters his elemental modes. And damn, dude, once his barren wings now light up with membranes of elemental fire,
that makes me like his spindly wing arms fingers way more. That his membrane like exists and alights in his elemental modes.
Pretty rad. I don't know how you fly with fire.
Why did I jump? Why did I jump when I hear the item pickup sensor effect there?
Membranes, but this is the category of monsters where you can get pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I'm all for it. He's got a mix of scary, badass, and goofy, all mixed in a way that I guess none of the other Forbidden monsters really do, except, you know, maybe Dire Morales with the whole volcano shoulder thing. That's a little silly. I think I'm okay with...
I mean, Dire Morales, a little, but it's silly in a still very intimidating way on Morales.
One member of this super exclusive club having a design that isn't 100% badass all the way through. It's neat to have.
I disagree that it's not. If again, I think the design is really solid.
A little bit of diversity going on in that category. Murphistophelan is
Murphistophelan.
The finale to the first section of this video. Don't you worry, we have a lot of monster variations to cover. Murphistophelan's a pretty damn sweet elder dragon.
Yes.
Not a lot needed to fix him, though I'm sure they could make him more ridiculous if they really wanted to.
You know how they can make him more ridiculous? Revealing he is a guardian monster and have him attack all the higher end elder dragons and or apexes of the various regions and show up and be the big bad turbo threat. I am not letting this go.
I'll harp on the elemental absorption thing one more time, though. I think if I could do anything for Murphistophelan, it would be to expand on that in the actual game.
Yes.
If he needs to get his fire powers, maybe he dunks himself in lava.
No, he doesn't need to dunk himself in lava. We go through a multi-part, we track him down as he's hunting the apexes, like we did with Arkveld. Come on, I can't be the only one seeing this. Someone chime in and agree with me, please. You know I'm right.
Maybe he could let himself get struck by lightning to get the thunder element. Maybe he lives in a region where the dragon element is naturally produced and he can absorb that out of the ground or something, and that's why he lives in really remote regions. Or perhaps, you know, elemental damage is incredibly effective against him, but if you do enough elemental damage, he can siphon that element out of your weapon and switch his states, altering
that
his
also
elemental
works.
weaknesses. Maybe you do a couple of these at the same time. I don't know, make the fight really crazy. I just love...
You could do that too. Really play it up. And actually, have him be able to suck the elemental strength out of your weapon and inflict an entirely new blight that's like, or that essentially mechanically has the same effect as modern Dragon Blight, but, or just have it be Dragon Blight, honestly. But he's sucked the elemental charge from your weapon for a time. That's interesting. That could be a very fun fight mechanic.
See this idea played with, because they show it in a cutscene, but it's not how he actually works in the game.
Yeah, but that is a limitation of older game. But again, imagine he has an Arkfeld-like quest, like storyline quest, where he goes around, he hunts the apexes of the region. We go, you know, I can't let this connection go. It's nagging in the back of my brain every time I see him, and he's the only thing on my screen, so I'm seeing him a lot.
Is Murphistophelan gets a 9 for how much I'd like to see?
No. I am giving Murphistophelan a 10 out of 10. Firstly, because I don't have the issues with the design that you do, but also, I'm looking at this from the, again, probably impossible, they come back perspective, and the potential here of him actually getting revealed to be a guardian monster, because he looks like a guardian monster so much. He has the Arkveld stuff. It is so good. And could be such a fantastic thing. You got to see the vision here. He looks like a guardian monster. He has an Arkveld-like elemental absorption. It all works. Yeah. So good.
Alrighty, so That is Monster Hunter Online's 9 original brand spanking new monsters, and we
All of them felt like like full real Monster Hunter monsters, you know? Even the one I did wasn't, the two I were meh about to an extent, still good, relatively. Look out, Mephistophelan. Imagine it, revealed to be Guardian Mephistophelan. A construct monster like Zoshia that's an equal to the Black Dragons. That was a very loud crack of thunder. Did you guys hear that? Given that I can hear it popping through my mic feedback, probably. Okay.
got plenty more to talk about. First off, we're going to cover a category of monster variations unique to online alone. A category of monster variations that live in complete isolation from other members of their species and have developed heightened abilities and differing physiology due to their abnormal life cycle. These are the aptly named lone species.
That sounds interesting too. Also, the theme for Mephistophelan 2 is so good and sells the Black Dragon level threats. The only thing that would make its theme better is if we had that Fatalis or Latrion or Diamoralis, like, evil choir, for lack of a better way of putting it. I'm not, that one guy, I think I watched a video from like a music specialist opera guy, I think, reacting to Fatalis' theme. But that operatic element of it, the only thing the theme's missing. Such a fantastic monster idea. And so obviously a guardian monster. I'm sorry, I can't let it go. This is a guardian. This is like Zoshia. It's the second guardian attempt at an equal dragon weapon. I know it's not, was never conceived of as that, but come on, you gotta see it. You gotta see it, right? I can't be the only one. I don't want to be the crazy guy. I don't want to be, what's his name from in the office, the conspiracy corkboards here, but come on, it is a guardian monster. It has to be. Even if it's never going to get stated, it's never going to be proven, it's never possible to confirm this, Mephistophelan is a guardian monster, at least in my heart. But, sadly, like I said, it is getting relatively late, and I did not anticipate how long this was going to take. So I think, this is where we're going to call it. Transitioning to the subspecies and variants and Lone Star species seems like a very good point to break this up. So, here's where we're going to cut it. But before I fully kill the stream, is there anything any one of you watching wants to bring up? Final closing notes, closing thoughts, anything you got to say? Please let me know. Anything at all. Giving you a minute or two to go through it. Any closing remarks at all? Any of you fully agree with my conspiracy theory of Mephistophelan being a guardian and think I'm totally correct, awesome, and justified about it? Any of you think I'm a complete idiot? Yes? No? None? No, you're just gonna leave me alone in the dark, rambling to myself? Hearing the thunder and the rain? No? Alright. Well, in that case, I am going to call this here for now. And I hope you guys enjoyed. And we will pick this back up in the next stream. I'm not giving you guys a vote this time. Or I might do one of the joke votes where it's 4 versions of the same option. But unless in the interim, Volcanic says he decides to revoke permission, which hopefully he won't, probably won't. But this is where we're going to call it. and we will resume our exploration of online's monsters another time. I wish all of you a good whatever time zone it is, and I still don't know how to... Oh, new subscriber! Heck yeah! Not sure which channel that is. I will check that later. But to either one, Soup Moth, welcome to the madness. And I will see you guys another time.